What's up, gang? What is up? Woo! Like, woo! Sometimes it just it's beyond words, the abuse of power. Um, like, how can other countries look to us to be the leaders of democracy when we have lost touch with that very phrase? Whereas is to get more and more comfortable with between oligarchy and authoritarianism. Um, and you're radical left, radical left, radical left, radical left. So by the time there's a response to what is the radical, what we see as a radical move, just because it's considered or thought to be conservative or Republican, like doesn't make it not radical. Like to say you're setting a precedent for something that's never happened in centuries, it's not a precedent, it's radical. To set a precedent of something that's never happened before is radical. Like we're talking about some radical thing that we're waiting for this left of who, this leftist thing, and I don't know, we gotta fight the left radical. And it's like, what the fuck is that when this is happening? This is radical. This is it's on paper. It's in front of us. Like radicalism is not from an outside fight. It's the radicalism is already inside. It's already happening. It's already happened. To take somebody that's honored this country, that's actually a symbol of the women's suffrage movement, and her wish is to do something that was done 4 years ago. After this woman spent her whole time, about like 27 years serving this country, can't be a higher patriot than Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Like her work during the 70s for women's rights is like, to mute her voice on her deathbed, to mute that woman's voice and discard her wish just offhand. That is radical. You're discarding a woman that was a Supreme Court justice and just moving on like she's never said anything. Like that is radical. That is radical conservatism that is just as toxic as anything on any extremes. Like we are living with radical decisions that don't actually represent a democratic society. It's an abuse of power, man. Just like regardless of how you feel about President 44, to go from before his administration of like 50 something filibusters to you get this man, Mitch McConnell, who's just staunch of, I won't let nothing happen. That is radical. That is radical. Like that I'm not letting nothing pass me. That's radical. To go from 50 something filibusters, which are woefully used and abused, to about 100 in one person's time in office is radical. That is not healthy. That is not normal. To have administration get in office, and as soon as they're in office, they introduce an idea of alternative facts, that is radical. That is not healthy for American society, where your first move is to build distrust in his own government. as the people in office are continuing with that tradition of building distrust. Like Lindsey Graham was right, this is setting the precedent. And it's an amazing, masterful move, because if you're the radical person, if you're in office and you're doing the radical destructive behavior, you're the one committing the radical destructive behavior, and the whole time you're saying, look at the others who don't exist, who have no power. You're saying, look at them, they're radical left. And the whole time you're the one doing the radical bullshit. Like, you're the one that is radical. To have a man head the Senate and he nicknames himself the Grim Reaper, how's that not the most radical conservative idealism you can possibly have? To have bills in your metaphorical cemetery that would have helped millions of people over the last 4+ years, and primarily this year, there's bills that would have helped millions of people. And to blame a party that doesn't actually have control, and majority of that party you're blaming are centralists. Some of them may have been even Democrats are running. Some of them were Republican. Like, they're not really, they're not even progressive. So to blame a party and keep pointing to them, right? To point to them while you're doing the dirt, that is radical. That is abuse of power. I gotta say this, man, to not respect Ruth Bader Ginsburg's wish is radical. When just 4 years previous to go and make these arguments about we can't elect a Supreme Court justice in an election year because it just adds too much. It's just too much. That's radical, man.